Imagine walking into a place full of people where everything seems completely normal at first glance. Conversations are flowing, laughter fills the air, and familiar faces greet each other just like any other day. However, something about this moment feels different in a way you cannot immediately explain. As you look around more carefully, you begin to notice something strange. Above every person's head, their thoughts are visible, not the words they choose to say out loud, but the ones they intentionally hide. These are the raw, unfiltered thoughts that usually remain buried deep inside the mind, never meant to be seen by anyone else. There is no filter, no control, and no way to hide what is truly going on inside. In that moment, a question naturally arises in your mind. If your thoughts were visible to everyone around you, would people still love you, or would they slowly begin to walk away from you? Let us begin with someone completely ordinary, a person who could easily be you. They wake up in the morning, check their phone, go through their routine, and step out into the world without realizing that something unusual is about to happen. At first, the change is subtle enough to be ignored. While talking to a friend, they smile, nod, and respond appropriately, just as they always do. Everything appears perfectly normal on the surface. However, suddenly, something unusual appears above their head, a sentence, a thought that they never intended to express. It reads, "I don't actually care about this conversation." The moment freezes. Their friend looks at them with confusion and asks if they just said something. They quickly deny it, insisting that they did not speak at all. Yet the damage is already done, because the thought is no longer hidden. It is visible, exposed, and impossible to take back. Initially, they try to dismiss the experience as stress or imagination, convincing themselves that it cannot be real. However, the phenomenon repeats itself, and each time it becomes harder to ignore. They laugh at a joke, but above their head appears the thought, "That wasn't even funny." They hug someone they care about, yet their mind reveals, "I feel nothing." They congratulate a friend by saying, "I'm happy for you," while the truth above them reads, "I wish that was me." As this continues, every interaction begins to feel risky and uncomfortable. They are no longer just communicating through words. They are being completely seen in a way they never agreed to. The carefully maintained mask of social behavior begins to crack under the pressure of constant exposure. Within a matter of hours, it becomes clear that this is not happening to just one person. Every individual is experiencing the same phenomenon. Everywhere you look, people are walking around with their thoughts displayed openly like subtitles that no one can turn off. What was once hidden beneath politeness and social norms is now impossible to ignore. A couple in a park appears happy on the surface, smiling and holding hands, yet their thoughts reveal a completely different reality. One thinks, "I'm getting tired of this," while the other wonders, "I could probably find someone better." A group of friends laughs together, but their inner thoughts expose feelings of insecurity and disconnection. One silently believes, "I don't belong here," while another thinks they wouldn't even notice if I disappeared. Even within families, the truth becomes visible. A parent looks at their child with care, but a fleeting thought reveals, "I wish my life had turned out differently." In that moment, the illusion of perfection collapses and reality becomes far more complicated than anyone expected. What begins to emerge is a truth that most people have never fully confronted. The human mind does not produce only kind, positive, or socially acceptable thoughts. Instead, it generates everything: jealousy, judgment, fear, doubt, resentment, and even contradictory emotions toward the same person. These thoughts are not new. They have always existed. The only difference is that they were previously hidden and ignored. Now they are visible in their raw and unfiltered form, forcing everyone to confront the reality of what it means to be human. At first, people attempt to treat the situation lightly, laughing nervously and hoping it will pass. However, as time goes on, the constant exposure begins to take a toll on relationships. A woman sees her partner's thoughts revealing, "I don't love you the same way anymore," A friend realizes that they are only kept around out of guilt rather than genuine connection. A child notices the unspoken belief that they will never truly be understood. These realizations are painful not because the thoughts are new, but because they can no longer be denied. The safety of ignorance disappears, and with it, the stability of many relationships. As days turn into weeks, the world begins to change in noticeable ways. People become quieter and more withdrawn, avoiding eye contact and limiting interactions. Many choose to isolate themselves, preferring solitude over the vulnerability of being constantly exposed. The fear is no longer about saying the wrong thing, but about thinking something that cannot be controlled. They know that everyone else can see what they think, and that changes everything. For the first time, people feel judged not for their actions or words, but for their inner experiences. The main character begins to spiral under the weight of their own thoughts. They become hyper-aware of everything that passes through their mind, especially the darker and more uncomfortable ones. Thoughts like, "I am not good enough," "I hate how I look," and "I wish I could disappear," become impossible to ignore. Even more disturbing are thoughts that seem completely out of character, like wishing failure upon others, or feeling indifferent to someone's pain. This leads to a terrifying realization about what these thoughts might say about who they truly are. The fear shifts from external judgment to internal confrontation. The real issue is that they themselves can no longer avoid seeing their thoughts clearly. They are forced to acknowledge that the mind is not always supportive, kind, or rational. They notice the same patterns they see in themselves are present in everyone else. A person performs a kind act, yet their thoughts reveal reluctance, and someone smiles while silently struggling. This realization shifts their perspective, and the thoughts that once felt uniquely troubling become universal. They begin to understand that thoughts themselves were never the true problem, and have always existed in the background of human experience. This leads to a deeper insight that perhaps thoughts were never meant to define a person's identity. They start to see a distinction between the mind and the self, as thoughts arise automatically and change quickly. Beneath all of this, there is something constant, the awareness that observes these thoughts and does not change in the same way. Instead of reacting to every thought, they begin to observe them without judgment. When a negative thought appears, they no longer accept it as truth. Instead, they recognize it as just another passing mental event. This creates a sense of distance between who they are and what they think. For the first time, they experience a form of inner freedom. As more people begin to understand this distinction, subtle changes occur in the world. While the thoughts are still visible, the reactions to them begin to shift. People start to recognize the insecurity behind confidence, the fear behind anger, and the loneliness behind silence. Judgment slowly gives way to empathy, as everyone realizes that they are not uniquely flawed, but universally human. This brings us back to the original question, but now it carries a deeper meaning. If your thoughts were visible, would people still love you? Perhaps some would not. Perhaps some would choose to walk away. However, the more important question is not about others. If your thoughts were visible, would you still be able to accept yourself after seeing everything? The good, the bad, and the uncomfortable truths you have tried to avoid. Because ultimately, you do not live with other people's opinions. You live with your own mind every single day. The goal is not to eliminate negative or imperfect thoughts, because that is impossible. Instead, the goal is to understand that thoughts are temporary and do not define who you are. They are simply mental events that pass through your awareness. You are something deeper, the one who observes, chooses, and acts beyond those thoughts. If you can learn to sit with your thoughts without becoming them, without fearing them, and without running away, then you no longer need to hide. Because in the end, your thoughts were never the problem. Believing that they define you is what has been holding you back.